established, solid recruiter, a defensive mind, and a guy who's got a resume that has him at a lot of impressive stops in his career, and now he's in charge of Michigan State football. So grade to hire. What do you got? Gator, what do you have on this one?
I'll give it a well, are we doing this just on the hire alone, or are we doing this after the mess, or how do we want to do this?
All things considered. Everything from beginning to end.
I'll still give it, I'll say an A-.
Okay.
I think this hire is outstanding. And when you factor in the mess that was what happened over the weekend, they couldn't have come out smelling better than what they did. I mean, yesterday was doom and gloom. We're thinking about, all right, is it worth it even to hire a MAC-level coach? Are we talking about going and giving a coordinator a chance? What are we doing here? Should we just go with Tressel for the year? All that talk was just bringing me down, and it sucked, and it was reality until it wasn't reality. The reality was, well, they went back and talked to Mel Tucker. I brought that up on Monday. Is it possible once we found out that Fickell wasn't going to be the guy, that he turned Michigan State down? I said, can they go back to Tucker? I mean, it's possible you can go back. It's not easy. Well, thank God they did. They went back to Tucker, and they talked to him, and able to get the job done. And hopefully he's getting ready to come to Michigan State today and get approved by the board, and let's get it going.
The board can't mess this one on, can they?
Let's not mess with my high today, all right?
Look, I think it's a B. I think clearly the number one target was Luke Fickell. I was worried that anybody after that would be considered a bust. Your words were Fickell or bust.
Well, I wish you'd stop throwing it at me, because I've said I don't know how many times that it's been a roller coaster of emotions for the last week. I think when you start throwing other factors into it, and then you bring out a search and you start talking about other candidates that turn your head and go, oh, this guy's good. So I'd like to move past that or bust.
Well, I think it's a B, and I think it's a really good comeback from what had looked like a bad situation. And I give them credit for going back to, Tucker was in their first round of interviews. It was Tucker, Saleh, and Fickell, and was there one more? Why do I feel like there was one more?
For the interviews?
Yeah.
I think those were the
three that interviewed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Campbell been contacted, said no. Narduzzi said no.
They gauged interest on many more candidates, including Shermer. And I think they even asked Bob Stoops and other people. So if there was any interest.
Khang, what do you give it?
I give it a B-. Way better than I expected after everything that happened. I don't think you can ignore the process. These are the same people that will do other hires for you, and if something happens, with Mel Tucker, we'll continue the next search, unless they get a new AD in there. You can't ignore the process. To me, one of the reasons why the process was so messed up is because it was Luke Fickell or bust. I don't care what anyone says. That's all anybody wanted was Luke Fickell, for good reason. He was the guy that Michigan State wanted. He was gonna be the guy that was gonna help, carry on what Dantonio had built here. And then they didn't get him. So that's part of the process of people saying, what do we do now? How'd you mess this up? Why'd you do interviews with other people, other candidates? What happened? To come out with Mel Tucker, I think, like I said, way better than I expected. B-. You can't ignore the process, though. You just can't.
Well, I think the one thing that this guy's really good at is recruiting. And that is the lifeblood of every program. You have to start there. And he's known as a very good recruiter. And he put together a top 40 class at Colorado. He was just getting going out there. I don't put a lot of stock in year one. Just like I don't think Spartan fans should put a lot of stock in year one at Michigan State, and maybe even year two. When he starts to get his guys in there, and we'll find out how long. There hasn't been a report on how long this contract is. There's been speculation, but there's nothing official. For his sake, I hope it's at least 5 years, and maybe even more, to get it up and running. Because I think his first year, next year, is going to be a lot like his first year at Colorado. It doesn't mean there's not promise there. And he was getting people behind Colorado football. CU football is one that, I mean, I think there's support there, but not unilateral support. And people said that he had a good, strong message that people rallied behind. I think that's something Michigan State needs. And so the recruiting and what this guy can do in sort of just unifying a fan base and getting everybody back on board, I think is important.
Well, the first thing he is a hell of a coach. I don't know if he's a hell of a head coach, but he's been a hell of a coach to this point in his career. He had stops at Ohio State where he was a part of the national championship team with Jim Tressel. He stopped at Alabama and won a national championship with Nick Saban there. Saban thought enough of him to make him the assistant head coach and defensive backs coach. After he won the national championship, he went to join Kirby Smart at Georgia to be their defensive coordinator, and took them within an eyelash of winning another national championship, or helped to take them, I should say. This guy's been throughout the NFL with Jacksonville and the Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears, been a defensive coordinator at all three stops. He's a hell of a coach. And yes, he's also a hell of a recruiter. Colorado had never sniffed the top 50 in recruiting since, I think, 2008. And they have the 32nd ranked class right now. So that speaks to him as what he's been able to do at Colorado, which is not an easy place to recruit. He comes with a lot of accolades and a hell of a resume. The difference between Luke Fickell and Mel Tucker is really experience as a head coach, I think is what it comes down to. Luke Fickell put up back-to-back 11-win seasons at Cincinnati and looked like he's destined for great things. Michigan State made an offer, allegedly, and he turned it down. And it sucked the way he turned it down because, yeah, it did look like all the eggs were in the one basket, and they went through a process to interview other guys before that, but those guys probably felt like, oh, great, this is just a token interview process because you've already got your guy in Luke Fickell. Fortunately, they were able to go back and get Mel Tucker because Mel Tucker looks like it's almost a home run hire.
To me, this is not a puff your chest moment for Spartan fans. It's more like a whew sigh of relief. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like I said, I think this is better than I expected after the whole Fickell fiasco. But, yeah, this is not a puff your chest moment. You wanted Luke Fickell. You didn't get him. You were able to go back and probably had to pay a little bit more for Mel Tucker, but you were able to get Mel Tucker, which you should be happy about considering everything that happened. He could be better than Luke Fickell. Who knows? We don't know yet, but clearly he wasn't the one target. I'm not even sure he was second or third. I don't know.
Well, I would say this. The one thing you're absolutely right is you just never know that they might have got a guy who could be better than Luke Fickell. Only time will tell with that one. And I think that patience is really important. We got a bunch of tweets coming in on this and the votes, A, B, C, D, or lower, what you can vote at Gator 971. But grade the hire. Mel Tucker, head coach, Michigan State.